Hi, my name is Simon Widjaja and welcome to another episode of Edge Animate Online Week. In this episode, we will take a closer look at Animate's architecture and how you can use jQuery to extend your creative work. We will discuss the difference between symbols and elements and use jQuery's HTML function to inject the Google map into your composition. In the second part, I will show you what is possible with this technique. There is one essential thing you have to know before you can start extending Edge Animate compositions, and that is the difference between symbols and elements. And to demonstrate the difference, I have an example. So we simply start with a new composition and we place a rectangle on the left-hand side and another one on the right-hand side, and we change the color of the first one to red. So this actually now is an element, and the other one should be a symbol. And we can change this element and convert it to a symbol simply by using the right click and then change the symbol name to, for example, my symbol. And we don't care about the autoplay function right now, so we simply leave it checked. So now we see that this actually is a symbol, and we can see that on the right hand side there is another icon. This is the symbol icon and this is the rectangle icon. So this is an element and this is a symbol. And of course we can see the symbol in the symbols section of the library as well. And now we can go into the symbol and place another item. In this case, we change the color to blue. So what we want to do now is we want to create a button, and whenever the user clicks on the button, we want to change the color of the two elements. Add some nice gradient to it, and of course we need some label for the button, and we can change the alignment to center, and we should also move this text area into this div container of the button. So now we can, for example, apply the mouse pointer cursor to this button, and now we can write some actions for this button. So we can use the click handler. So this actually is the action code panel, but there's another thing I want to show you, and a lot of people don't know that. So this is not the only way you can code in Edge Animate. So this is just for writing small actions and small pieces of code related to a specific element, but there's another more advanced code view. So if you use the code section right here, and you can see it's Command E, the shortcut to open this code view. And actually it's pretty much the same, but you have a little bit more features right here. So you have a tree on the left hand side, and you can see all the scripts that are already there. So we just added a click event to the round rect 3, which actually is the button, and we have the stage, and then you have this plus icon, and you can add several events to the stage, for example, creation complete or composition ready, and you have an overview with all the elements contained in the stage. So you can select one of the items right here, and then you can see all the available events as well. And another cool thing about this advanced view is you have the full code button in the upper right corner. So if we hit that, then you can have access to all the JavaScript that is part of your Edge Animate composition, and this is actually where all the actions are defined. So if you are an experienced JavaScript developer, this might be interesting for you. But in this case, we simply disable it again. So now we can write some code for our button. So what we want to do is we want to get a reference to the red rectangle. So we can use sim, and then we can use the $sign. And the $sign, of course, is a hint that we can use jQuery selectors in here. So Of course, we should first name the two elements. So the red one is called rect, and the blue one within the symbol is called inner rect. So we can again hit Command E to open the code view. So now we can say we want a reference to the red rectangle. And since it is a jQuery reference, we now can use the CSS function, for example. And the CSS function expects two parameters. The first one is the property we want to change. So in this case, we want to change the background color, and the second parameter, of course, is the value. So in this case, we want to change the color to green. And if we now run this composition in the browser, we can see the red element in the left-hand side, and then we can click on the button and we see the color is changing. So of course we could use the timeline to change the color as well, but in this tutorial we are focusing on using jQuery to modify and extend your composition. And the second thing we wanted to do is to change the color of the blue one as well. So now we have to use sim, which actually is the current symbol. So in this case, it's the stage. So we want to reach into the symbol. So first we have to get a reference to the symbol. So we can use the get symbol function. And in this case, our symbol has the name my symbol. And now we are in the symbol. So we can use the jQuery function again. But in this case, we want to get a reference to the inner rect, which is the blue one, and change the color as well. And this time I want to use a different variation of the CSS function. So I want to pass in a object. So in this case, we want to use the background color again. But now, since it is an object, we have to write it like this. So we want to change the color to yellow. And for example, add another value, and that is the advantage of using this method signature. So we can use another CSS property, for example, the border, and we can set it to 2 pixel solid black, for example. So now you can see how you can navigate through the symbol structure. So you can think of a symbol just like a folder structure. So you can reach into a symbol and you can get the parent symbol of a symbol. So that's actually how you use it. And of course, a symbol does not really have a visual representation within the DOM. So whenever you want to change something in the DOM, you need to change the element. And the symbol is just the container. And with the symbol, you can access the timeline, for example. But I'll come to that later. So if we run this in the browser again, we now can click the button and we see both elements, the green one on the stage and the yellow one within the symbol, are changed. And I want to show you another thing with this symbol. As I mentioned before, a symbol can be used to control the timeline. So each symbol, of course, has its own timeline, just like a movie clip, for example, in Flash. So I want to add a little animation to our symbol, and we want to change the autoplay to false in this case. So our symbol should look like this when we start it. Yeah, right now we can see it. So the symbol did not start playing. So we can enter the code panel again, and now we can say when the user clicks on the button, we want the symbol with the name my symbol to start playing. So yeah, now you can see you can use a reference to the symbol to control the timeline and to access all the elements within the symbol with the $sign. So yeah, that is the basic difference between a symbol and an element. So let's move to the next example. And since we are working with jQuery references right here, we can use the whole power of jQuery. So just let me demonstrate this. So this is a real simple example where we can use a little bit more than just the CSS function to change elements on the stage. So in this case, we have a text element here and another rectangle on this side. So what we actually do here is we have a HTML button. So we can use the symbol to get a reference to the jQuery element just like this. And then we of course can use the HTML function to inject some HTML code, or in this case, simply some text. And we can also use the append function, which not clears the container before adding the HTML content, but it simply appends it. So when we run this in the browser again, we can see the result. So I can hit the HTML button, so we see the new text, and I also can click the append button, so we see the text is appended. And of course, we can do a little bit more with that as well. So we can use, for example, the form, just like this. So actually it's the same. So we also use the HTML function, but in this case, we inject a little bit more content. So we have a string and some HTML text. So we have the input text and a select tag. So if we run this in the browser, you will see that actually these input elements are appended. So we have the select combo box. And you can use this technique to, for example, inject a Google map. So just let me show you another example. This actually is one of I've used in one of my workshops. So this actually is called Mixit Baby. So we are throwing all kinds of different third-party libraries in here. So we have a Google Maps, for example, and we simply can take a closer look at the code. So we have, again, a container right here, and it's within a symbol. So we are using the creation complete event to actually inject the Google Map. So in this case, we simply get a reference to the container, to the element, of course. And in the next step, we are creating a new variable, and we throw in some embed code from Google, and we have tweaked it a little bit. So we don't want to use the default width and height of the map. So in this case, we simply use the reference to our container to get the actual width and the height. So we can actually resize the container on the stage, and the map always fits to this container. And finally, we simply use this string, which is in the variable map, and inject that with the HTML function to the container. So if we run that in the browser, you can see whenever the user clicks on the maps button, we get the map on the right hand side, and of course it's completely interactive. You can zoom in and zoom out and all that. And with the same technique, you can, for example, embed a YouTube video just like this, so you get all the controls and everything you need. So yeah, that's really great. And of course you can do a little bit more with that. So in this case, this is a simple text input field that I injected. So there's nothing really fancy going on here. If you need a date chooser, that is great. So you can check out the jQuery UI framework. So they have a bunch of cool UI elements. And of course you can use Bootstrap by Twitter. So you have all kinds of different UI components as well. And you can use my Edge Commons extension for Adobe Edge Animate to, for example, play around with some sounds, which is not supported by Edge Animate out of a box right now. So if you want to use sound, you can play around with this. So yeah, that's really great. So let's take a closer look at the sound example. So we simply move the playhead to the right position, and now we can go into the symbol, and we can take a closer look at the code panel right here. So of course we are loading the Edge Commons library. And if you want to know more about this extension library, we have some more videos going on in the Edge week. So tomorrow there will be a new video that will be hosted at Adobe TV that just focuses on this extension. And yeah, you can also check out the edgecommons.org website. So that's where you get all the information about this open source library. So we simply use the yep/nope function to load the extension, and then we can use the complete function to listen for the loading process to be completed. And then we simply can use the EC, which is the shortcut for Edge Commons, and then we can simply use the sound.setup function to set up a manifest. So we can load several files. In this case, we load 3 files: the bass drum, the snare drum, and then whole song. And yeah, that's pretty much it if you want to set up the sound. And if you want to play the sound, it looks like this. So you can simply say ec.setup. You can simply say ec.sound.play and then pass in the ID you just defined in the manifest. And yeah, that's it. And this basic knowledge about Animate and jQuery was fundamental for me when I created the Edge Commons open source library for Edge Animate. I don't want to reveal everything today because we are focusing on Edge Commons in tomorrow's episode. So if you're interested in that, you definitely have to check out the other episodes as well. But I can say we just released version 1.0 of Edge Commons, and I just want to give you a quick overview of what you can build with Edge Commons. So for example, right now you are able to use SVG graphics within Animate, but only as static images. So what I was really interested in was to create visual aspects or visual elements in Adobe Illustrator and then use them in an interactive way in Edge Animate. So for example, I wanted to reach into the SVG graphics to change, for example, some shapes and to change colors and paths and whatever. And another thing I wanted to do is I wanted to create interactive SVGs that are able to dispatch events. So I can listen for these events in my Animate composition. So I will just launch this example so you can see how this works. So now you can see this little guy, which is just one scalable vector graphic. So of course you can zoom in, and now you can wait for events. So you can see on the right hand side which part of this character is selected, and then I can even reach into this SVG to change the color. That is one of the examples. And another one, which is a little bit similar to Lightbox. So I simply run this in the browser so you can see the result. So we have 4 characters right here with a little animation, and now we can click on one of these items and we can see the spotlight feature, the spotlight overlay. So you are able to use images in the overlay, but the great thing about that is you can also use Edge Animate compositions in the overlay. So you can build really complex interactive stuff, and it's even possible to just throw in a YouTube ID of a video, so you're able to launch a video in the overlay. You just have to use a setup object, and then you can use this. But of course, before you can use the Edge Commons, you have to load them properly. So yeah, but we will dive into that tomorrow. So let's see what else we've got here. Oh yeah, of course, the composition loader. I think that is really a great feature of the Edge Commons. So you are able to create multiple compositions, and then you can load them and nest them at runtime. So it's really great if you have bigger teams and one team is building one composition and another team is building another one. So you can simply load compositions. So again, you have to load Edge Commons before you can use it, and then you can simply use ec.loadComposition. Then you can give it a URL to the composition to load, and you can specify the container, the target container. And this is another demo, or actually it's part of one of my workshops. So you can build the the main composition, and then we have several sub-compositions. So for example, this is the spotlight example I just showed you. So this of course works within this as well. And the final one, which is not yet part of the Edge Commons because it's a little bit more complex. So it's kind of a small game engine. So you're really able to create sprite sheet animations, and then you can control these sprite sheet animations and the character with the keys. And then you can, for example, we integrated some jQuery libraries for collision detection, so we can see whenever the character enters a specific area, or for example, we can create obstacles so we are not able to walk through this stuff, but we can of course jump, and here you can see it's pretty much a work in progress. But I just want to give you an outlook how you can use jQuery and all kinds of different third-party libraries to extend your own creative work.